In the news, Obama calls for restoring 1967 borders for the State of Israel. Tisk tisk tisk. Hello, Greg Herbert here again. And it seems as if our so-called president is turning tail on our only true ally in the Mideast again. A day before the arrival in Washington of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu of Israel, Mr. Obama declared that the prevailing borders before the 1967 Arab-Israeli War, adjusted to some degree to account for Israeli settlements in the West Bank, should be the basis of a deal. While the 1967 borders have long been viewed as the foundation for a peace agreement, Mr. Obama's formula of land swaps to compensate for disputed territory created a new benchmark for a diplomatic solution. Mr. Obama's statement represented a subtle but significant shift in American policy, and it thrust him back into the region's most nettlesome dispute at a time when conditions would seem to make reaching a deal especially difficult. The Israeli government immediately protested, saying that for Israel to return to its pre-1967 borders would leave it indefensible. Mr. Netanyahu held an angry phone conversation with Secretary of State Hillary Rodham Clinton on Thursday before the speech, officials said, in which he demanded that the president's reference to 1967 borders be cut. Israeli officials continued to lobby the administration until right before Mr. Obama arrived at the State Department for the address. White House officials said he did not alter anything under Israeli pressure, though the president made changes in the text that delayed his appearance by 35 minutes. Mr. Obama's reference to Israel's borders came toward the end of a summer 45-minute address that sought to articulate an overarching framework for the disparate American responses to the Arab Spring, which has taken a dark turn as the euphoria of popular revolutions in Tunisia and Egypt has given way to violent crackdowns in Bahrain and Syria, a civil war in Libya and political stalemate in Yemen. The president offered a blunt critique of Arab governments and, without promising any changes in policy to confront repressive ones more aggressively, sought to assure protesters that they were squarely aligned with democratic American values in a region where the strategic interests of the United States have routinely trumped its values. Those issues are delicate enough, but the diplomatic row with Israel highlighted the acute sensitivities that Mr. Obama faces as he seeks to link the changes in the Middle East with the conflict at the region's heart. At a time when the people of the Middle East and North Africa are casting off the burdens of the past, the drive for a lasting peace that ends the conflict and resolves all claims is more urgent than ever, he said. At one level, by putting the United States on record as supporting the 1967 borders as the starting point for negotiations over a Palestinian state, Mr. Obama was simply endorsing reality. Middle East analysts say a new state would inevitably be drawn on the basis of Israel's boundaries before the 1967 Arab-Israeli War, which created the contours of today's Middle East. Israel's victory over Egypt and other Arab neighbors in that war expanded its control over territory in the West Bank and Gaza, inhabited by millions of Palestinians, creating a greater Israel, including all of the capital, Jerusalem, but one that oversees a resentful occupied population. Mr. Obama also noted that Israel and the Palestinians would have to swap territory on either side of that border to account for large Jewish settlements that have taken root in the West Bank since 1967. But the shift moves the United States a step closer to the position of the Palestinians and is viewed as vital to them, because it means the Americans implicitly back their view that new Israeli settlement construction will have to be reversed or compensated for in talks over the borders for a new Palestinian state. Some analysts said Mr. Obama's shift was less strategic than tactical, seeking to lure the Palestinians back to the negotiating table as a way of heading off their campaign to seek international recognition of a Palestinian state at the United Nations General Assembly in September. In direct statements and through aides, Netanyahu suggested Obama did not understand Israel's security needs or the realities of the conflict-riven Middle East. Obama said clearly in his policy speech and in his own address before AIPAC on Sunday that the territorial markers could be adjusted through mutually agreed land swaps, a principle accepted by the Palestinians that would allow Israel to retain major settlement blocks and help assure its security. But Netanyahu has repeatedly sidelined this part of the Obama message. In a sign of the sympathy Netanyahu can hope to enjoy in Congress, Obama's own political ally, Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid, challenged Obama on the border issue at the AIPAC dinner. No one should set premature parameters about borders, about building, or about anything else, Reid said. The reference to building alluded to earlier U.S. demands that Israel renew an expired moratorium on settlement construction. Peacemaking with the Palestinians stalled in late 2008, shortly before Obama and Netanyahu each took office. Obama had hoped to bring the two sides back to the negotiating table and wrest a deal by September 2011. But those efforts foundered after Israel refused to extend the settlement construction slowdown and Palestinians abandoned negotiations after 3 short weeks, saying continued Israeli building on land they want for a future state did not show good faith. Now, they are refocusing their strategy on trying to obtain a unilateral declaration of statehood at the UN when the General Assembly meets in September. Israel would like to derail that campaign, which, if successful as expected, could compound its diplomatic isolation. The U.S. also opposes unilateral action, which would put Washington in the awkward position of having to vote against Palestinian statehood at a time when calls for greater democracy are ringing out across the Arab world. Further complicating peace efforts is a unity deal between rival Palestinian factions that would bring violently anti-Israel Hamas militants into the Palestinian government. Obama has said Israel should not be expected to negotiate with a government that does not recognize its right to exist. Anti-Israel hecklers interrupted Netanyahu's speech several times, but supporters drowned them out, leaping to their feet, giving him a standing ovation, and at one point chanting his nickname, Bibi, and pumping their arms in the air. That they should. The Obama administration is doing things that are just as biblical prophecy is saying, heating up the cauldron. That is the Mideast even further. Obama is further exposing himself to be the anti-Christian, anti-Jewish leader that many feared him to be, but what's more is that he is also offending Muslims and Palestinians as well, not unlike Pastor James Manning of New York. I believe that this man we are forced by law to call president is not a Christian, not on the side of America, not on the side of Israel, not even on the side of Muslims, atheists, or even his own Democrats and liberals, as even he is in disagreement with Senator Harry Reid on Israel. Obama is on his own side, and that side is the New World Order and the Antichrist, the ultimate Antichrist, Satan the devil. Though Harold Camping may have been a Pharisee, a blasphemer, a complete liar, and will keep falling over himself, making consistently inaccurate predictions of the second coming until he either passes on or makes a habit of saying the end is tomorrow until Jesus really comes back. One thing he is saying is authentic. We are in the end times, and people need to get ready and get right with the Most High God and turn back to Christ. And Obama, this tool of Satan, needs to be dethroned. I call for all authentic Christians and supporters of Israel to stand up and speak up against Obama, for he is a leader of the synagogue of Satan.